亲爱的网友朋友，大家好。
Hello, my dear friends.
今天呢，我们说一说
Today,
外星人
we're going to
和
talk
金
about
字塔的事儿。
aliens and
外星人和金字
pyramids.
塔搞什
Oh
么？
my gosh,
对不对？
aliens has something to do
那
with
么
the
大家
pyramids?
比较容易直观了解到的就是金字塔。
It's very
我相信有
easy
一些网友已
to
经
see
去过
and understand
埃
is
及的金字
pyramid.
塔去旅游
I
观
I
光
believe
过
a lot of our friends
亲
might
眼
have
去
been to
踏
the
入到
pyramids in
这个
Egypt,
法老
and
的这
they
个风暴
have
之中啊，也
actually
见识
went
过那种
inside
从下
the
地下大
shafts
的
and the
建筑之
causeway
一
in the
啊，
pyramid
里
and
面非常的神
witness
秘，
the
非
most
常神奇，
outstanding
非常
construction
的
in the
不可
world.
思议。
It's
哎，
very
觉真。
incredible
吧。
and
嗯
yeah, amazing. So Joy started. Okay, when we talk about pyramid, we'll start from talking about Egypt. You know, a pyramid is like the symbol of Egypt. It's like cultural relics. So Egypt is one of the four cultural, ancient countries, including India, Babylon, and China. The ancient Babylon is in, Iraq area. And in China, we have also the historical cultural relics like the Great Wall. And in other countries, the four ancient cultural countries, they also have a lot of these cultural relics. In Egypt, especially a lot. In Egypt now, we have already found over 110 pyramids, big and small. So today, we are going to especially emphasize on discussing about the Giza pyramid, and there's the largest and the biggest pyramid, and this pyramid is much higher and bigger than the others. And it is considered as the Egyptian king, so they call Pharaoh Khufu's tomb. So how big is the Khufu pyramid? So it is almost like 146 meters. So it is like a 45-story skyscraper. And the whole pyramid the size of the whole pyramid has the area of like 8 soccer field and 45-story skyscraper, and it's made with huge rocks. And yeah, every single rock would be like over 2 or 3 tons, or even several dozens of tons. And when you look at this huge rock, when we're talking about 45 stories, 45 story doesn't seem to be too amazing, because in Malaysia, in Taiwan, they have like over 100-story buildings. But this pyramid, which is 45 stories of skyscraper, but it was like 4,500 years ago. It was constructed at that time, and from 4,500 years ago until the time when Eiffel Tower was built. So for over 3,600 years, the pyramid is the highest building in like construction in the world. Well, we're not counting all the natural mountains inside, but just for the constructions, this is the highest construction in the world. So this is just a brief introduction of this grand pyramid. So Grandmaster said, yeah, this is fun, such a big, great pyramid. Like when we imagine how to design it, it's hard to imagine. And even the smallest rocks would be over 2 tons, and the bigger rocks would be like dozens of tons. And also, all the rocks fit so perfectly. Yeah, I did some research about it. So how perfectly fit they are, all the rocks. Well, let's put the exterior aside because we still have the the wind and rains, and maybe there will be bombs or something. But when we look at the inside shafts and the chambers of the tomb, and also the walls inside, all the rocks, how perfectly fitted. Like you couldn't even try to insert a razor inside, or a blade, a knife, or even a piece of paper in between the rocks. And they didn't use any adhesive agent. So nowadays, usually when we put the rocks or the bricks together, we will need to use either cement or some kind of adhesive agent. Yeah. So when we put the bricks together, we always, before we would use some mud or some kind of, now maybe we'll use cement or some kind of agent to bond them together, and they can only last for 100 years or hundreds of years. And when after many years, you would still be able to put something inside, and this doesn't have any bonding agent, but still you cannot insert anything in between. We have seen some, rock made, castles or something, but there's always a rib, and in between the stones, it cannot be so perfectly fit. How smooth would the stones or the rocks be? If the two stones are so perfectly fit together, if we move one stone, though in between the stones, if there used to be a fresh leaf inside, maybe the leaf is still fresh if you remove one rock or one stone away. Because it's like a vacuum, and it's like no air inside. I actually have tried to make some, some space that with no air. But this pyramid is 146 meters high, and the area is like 8 soccer fields. So such a huge construction. And it's made with those either rectangular or square stones, and there's no space in between the rocks and the stones. It's just incredible. And when we look, when we see how many rocks and stones are there, and so and calculating like every stone would be like over 2 tons, and so the whole weight of the whole pyramid is 6.84 million tons. So how come the whole pyramid will not? The pyramid didn't collapse. If you put so many heavy stones on it, on any building it might collapse. But this pyramid, not only it didn't collapse, it didn't even, lean to one side, and the foundation didn't even sink. Well, when we build any house, we actually talked about the foundation of the houses, and we were talking about the safety of the houses. For some of the foundations will sink. So is this pyramid, but for this pyramid, if there's a foundation, yes, this foundation must be so much more solid and strong, and the stones must be super, super thick and strong, so that the pyramid built on this foundation would be able to survive. And so such a heavy stone construction, and covered on one space. So under the pyramid, what is supporting the pyramid? Yeah. It was good that this is the desert. There's no water under. Who said there's no water under? Yeah, under the desert, there is definitely water. Remember, there's the Nile River in Egypt. Yeah, so this is the mother river of Egypt, and also on the north of Egypt, it is the Mediterranean Sea. And right beside it, it is the Nile River. And there's also a very big lake from like several dozens of kilometers. So there are water around. And so Grandmaster, before you said like if there are river or other underground water around, then it will affect the solidity or the stableness of the building. And so for such a huge pyramid, how can it be so solid? And also for building such a huge pyramid, how many people would have to go and build this the pyramid? Well, they do have the this kind of rock in Egypt. Well, what do you mean by local? Egypt, okay, Egypt is like very big. It's also hundreds of kilometers away. It's not right there where the pyramid is now located. Or maybe somebody say, oh, because they got some big granites and then floated on the Nile River. But how big the boat needs to be, right? Do they have such big boats at that time? According to the historical record, ancient Egypt, at the time, they don't even have the horse-driven carriages, or they don't even have wheels. And so, and Grandmaster said at that time, yeah, if there will be human beings, mostly what you can imagine is just like a canoe or something like that, or kayak that the First Nations they used to have, or they are having now. Yeah. So yeah, it was like, yeah, those are ancient civilization, but it's not like 40 years ago. And if you think that it's built by human beings, some people calculated how many people would have to be involved into the construction when the Emperor Qing, the first emperor of the Qing dynasty, almost the whole country, all the men would have to be involved when they built the Great Wall. And there was a lady who cried for, there are so many people died because of building the Great Wall. And yeah, so there were a lady who cried for her husband, and then the Great Wall collapsed. And so Grandmaster said the collapse is because of the earthquake, maybe. And sometimes maybe it was the thunder and the lightning. Yeah, when a thunder and lightning comes down and hit on the Great Wall, high buildings are also more likely to be hit by the thunders. And Meng Jiangnu, that lady, probably cried when there was a thunder. So that's why the Great Wall collapsed and fell. But they were having that story because it was very touching. And so these three highest pyramids, yeah. In the pyramid, well, in the desert, very rarely they would have thunders, and very rarely they would have rains, but they do have earthquakes. Whatever they have elsewhere in the desert, they also have it. Maybe they don't have durance. They have, rains and snows and maybe flooding, because they have the Nile River. So when it's flooded, it's possible because there's also mountain around. And in the summer, there might be flooding too. So, my online friends, let's think about it. The lightest stones are like 2 tons. It's like a very rectangular shaped stone. At that time, the tools used by human beings are only like wooden sticks or, just like, it's mostly they're like just doing hunting. And so their tools are extremely original and the most primary tools. So this picture is just a very beautiful imagination. This is not a picture, okay? And this is impossible. Yeah, we imagine that they could do this, but actually, you have to have really a spirit to be able to move a mountain to do this. In the picture, this big stone is over 35 tons. Even if you can move the stone off the mountain, how can you move it elsewhere? So think about those big trucks, like they have 4-ton trucks or 8-ton trucks, and also in Egypt there's all deserts. Whatever you put over there, the stone will sink, right? How can you move? How can you transport the stones? Well, what about there's a big storm or something, and you really need to blow it hard? You're boasting. Maybe they can blow a cow here, but not this stone. So if there are people around who will, try to build a stone like that, but you cannot transport the stone there. Well, anyways, it's impossible to move the stone there, right? And even if you can move the stone there, how can you move it up? And such a smooth and perfectly fit stone, even nowadays, if a company can mimic the same kind of stone in Canada, say for example, if they can make this kind of pyramid, and if they can build another miracle like this, then there will be tons of tourists coming, and they will make tons of money because of that. And they can't. Such huge rocks, and how finely grinded and polished would it have to be? The surface of the pyramid, you don't have to look at the surface of pyramid because of the the wind and rains, but inside it's perfectly fit, and it was built like 4,500 years ago. And there's also there are different studies about this. Maybe there's a hypothesis about maybe they will build the sand, but when they're using the ramp to move up the stones, but then they need to use to bring like 3 times as much of the pyramid weight. And so such a big stone, who's going to pull it? Are you using a dragon to pull it? If you haven't pulled anything, and you have to move uphill, right? It's not a joke. So the heaviest and the biggest crane nowadays cannot even lift it or hoist it, and you have to lift it up and then you put it down. I really admire your imagination, but they just hypothesized like this, but we, human beings always think that we can move the mountain, right? And only a few of these stones or rocks and move up there. And how many years would it take also, even if you can? If you can mimic that and do the same thing immediately, today will be lots of people doing that. And why don't they use smaller stones? And what if they Yeah, you cut into small, like table-sized rocks, and then we can move it. Oh my gosh! Yes, you awaken my mind, and yeah, they are so silly. Why do they fight with the heaven? They really couldn't move it. Why don't they just cut it into small bricks, and then the human beings can move it, right? Yeah, and then everybody can move like 10 of them at once. So please remember that this is a pyramid. This is not the Great Wall. The Great Wall is built by bricks and stones. And yeah, the Great Wall, the miracle of it is like very long. But this pyramid is like, we never know how long it took to build the pyramid, and like you suddenly wake up and it's already there, and it's for like thousands of years. It's still there, and it's still solid, and it's still upright. But for the Great Wall, the Chinese people built for thousands of years, and they have to repair it many times. So for the pyramid, the base of the pyramid is a square. Do you know the error? For 100 meters of one side. 2,030 meters of each side. Do you know the error? Yeah, so ideally, the four sides should be exactly the same. If there's like 4 or 5 meters of error, is very ideal. But yeah. But the error that they have is only 20 centimeters. It's only like a palm size. So the hardest thing is for transport and move the stones and put them together. And also it's extreme accuracy in measuring and calculating, and also the engineering to calculate it and polish it to the extreme perfect surface. What tool did they use, or equipment did they use to polish the stone? Oh, we do polish some stones. We used to. Yes. In the future, we will do too. When we talk about the mirror pyramid, I thought that I will also polish some stones and build also a miniature pyramid. Yeah. So even without any rest, we use the electric polisher. We need to use like days and nights, and like over 10 days and nights to polish just a pebble. And for such a huge rock and to polish perfectly smooth, at that time there's no equipment, so they have to polish with maybe copper. Grandmaster said, please remember the the Pharaoh Khufu. They use those granite, and they are actually even harder than those bronze than the bronzeware. So how can the bronzeware polish the granite? And when they were doing the analysis, they think that if they need to polish these granites, they need to use the polisher with the diamond as the polisher. Yeah. So to be hard enough to polish it. So any hardware or software for human beings, none of the hardware or software can ever possibly polish them at the time. And I was worried about the foundation of the pyramid will sink. For any houses, if the foundation sink for 1 centimeter is very normal, and sometimes it could be over dozens of centimeters. And for such a huge pyramid, do you know how level the foundation is? There's the error of the foundation is only 4 centimeters of error. Yeah, so if it is like this, it's very, very level. So if it is a little bit not level. The higher part and the level and the lower surface. Yeah, for such a huge foundation, the highest point compared to the lowest point is only 4 centimeters. And more miraculous is that this is already after thousands of years. Now they have these error, but at that time, when they were constructed or when they were just built, there's no error at all. And this is an impossible miracle, but it happened on this pyramid. It's so huge and heavy, and after thousands of years, there's only such a small error. And let's look at the pyramid. Every side is a triangle, and we think maybe the angle of each side should be 60 degrees, right? But when we measure the sides, it is actually 51 degrees, 52 minutes. So this degree is the perfect degree in construction to prevent natural collapse. You know, some of the buildings might, like the Pisa Tower is now tilted. And so if you have like 50 degrees, 52 minutes, this is the most solid degree to prevent collapse. Oh my gosh, how come they were so accurate and amazing in measure and also calculate? Yeah. And also, it's a miracle in astronomy. You know, the pyramid has 4 sides, and the 4 sides pointing directly to east, west, south, and north. It can also, so, and they are pointing exactly to the exact south and north and east and west. Yeah, so it was like at that time, it was just impossible. At the time, there's no compass. So how can you even, it's not the base sides. It is actually the upper sides. It is even harder to point directly and accurately to the exact east and exact west and exact south and exact north. So just now we talked about we talked about the math, the geometry. Yeah, when we talk about geometry, and we learned about those cones, and my math teacher actually took pyramid as the example. And my math teacher really admired the construction of the pyramid. And so all these numbers are like such a coincidence, and all perfect numbers. And so say, for example, the angle is no more, no less, exactly that angle. And the height of the side also has something to do with, I think it's the height to the power of, the height times 10 to the power of 9th, it would be the distance between the Earth to the Sun. So it has something to do also with astronomy. So what are they trying to do? Does it have any meanings? Yeah. And there's another thing my math teacher said. The base, the size on the base, two times of the size of the base length and divide the circumference, it exactly becomes the pi. And so this also is a cone. And the cone, the pyramid also, they can even use the height and the length of the size. They can even calculate the number pi. And so, yeah, ancient Egyptians, they have not only know this number at that time, and they have already applied into the construction. How come they get to know this if they have learned all these measures and geometry and astronomy, and if they have learned all of those, if it is discovered by human beings, it's just like in China, Zu Congzhi discovered pi, then he would definitely record it, right? So human beings will record it, and in China they will report to the empress. And Arabians, when they discovered, they recorded, right? But all these extreme miracles and all these very mysterious numbers and coincidences, they haven't been recorded. Where did they go? Or are they discoveries of human beings? Well, at least human beings really admire these applications. I have a hypothesis. In order for their patent to be protected, so they destroyed all these records. And well, this is a pity that, if they destroy all the records, then their descendants won't be able to use it. So because they haven't been recorded, so nobody know why. Or so the construction and all these numbers and the height of the pyramids, so it was like never happened before and never happened after. So the smaller pyramids actually copied these pyramids. And so these pyramids are exceptionally distinctive and accurate. And also the location of the pyramid is very close to the Nile River. So why do they choose the location? So this Giza pyramids, so the highest 3 pyramids, they actually have this formation correspond to some stars. So there's, in the sky, there are many different stars, and so there's one is called Orion, and in the middle we call that's the Orion belt. So the location of these 3 stars, actually the formation of that and the location of this correspond to the location of the Giza pyramid, the 3 major pyramids. And also the Milky Way is like a river of stars. And the location of the Milky River, if you compare to the Orion belt, is exactly the same kind of location as the Nile River. So the Milky Way corresponds to the Nile River. How come I feel like someone from the Milky Way or from the universe and in the Orion stars, and then they took a picture of the Orion belt and then the Milky Way, and then they copied that exact picture in Egypt. So the Milky Way is now projected to the Nile River, and then the Orion belt is now projected to the 3 major pyramids. So you need some light to do the projection. Yeah. Maybe, yeah, so correspond to the constellations, and a lot of the ancient people, they would look at the stars and then it were recorded on the paper. But why these pyramids needs to correspond to the constellations and even the Milky Way? Is that an admiration of the sky? A lot of people say the pyramids are the tombs of the pharaohs. But why these in China, they call the kings as the son of the sky or the heaven. And when they die, the Chinese people will say the kings go back to sky. But why are they buried in the ground, though? Yeah. Yeah. So these tombs are actually higher than the ground, so it's like above the ground. So why? So Grandmaster says in ancient China, they also observe the stars, the constellations, and nature. So they have a specific title like called Si Tian, and in our calendar they have the solstice. Yeah. And so there are different times that it's the conclusion of their observation of the sky and the constellations. And so there's a saying that the kings or the emperors, usually he would have someone who is very good at astronomy called Si Tian. He would know which star like this emperor is corresponding to. So this, yeah. So a lot of times they would say, oh, this king is a Ziwei star. So every emperor or every king is corresponding to one star. Oh, so what about those Orion stars? So later we will talk about them. So when the enemies invade, and if they have like thousands of people come, and then it usually will be manifested in the sky and the constellations, and you will see that. Yeah, so they can observe in the sky, so they will be shown in the constellations. And so these 3 major pyramids, they actually have the corresponding constellations. If it is according to the Chinese culture and philosophy, this is very natural, because Chinese people always say, this emperor corresponds to a star or something. So the biggest pyramid, Pyramid Khufu, actually on the side of the pyramid, they have ventilation holes. Yeah, so they can ventilate. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what is that ventilation hole for. At least they can ventilate. So now the scientists, when they calculate, when they were building the pyramid, in the pyramid they found 2 chambers. They thought they were chambers. One is called the king's chamber and the queen's chamber. They were also empty chambers, but they actually thought that they were 2 chambers over there. One is the king's chamber and one is the queen's chamber. So what I want to say is that in the king's chamber, when we go back to the time when they were built, so there's the shaft, the Orion belt. The major star of Orion actually can shine directly through this ventilation hole and directly into the king's chamber. There's another star called Sirius. Sirius is like an attached star of the Orion, and this Sirius will shine through another hole directly into the queen's chamber. So this really has this correspondence. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so the king and the queen are actually two stars. Maybe. Well, at least this is like, yeah. So one major star from the Orion belt is shining directly into the king's chamber, and the Sirius star shines directly into the queen's star. Why don't they let... So this is not just a ventilation hole, Grandmaster says. It is a communication hole. Yeah. And this has already go beyond our knowledge of our civilization. Actually, through these holes, they can communicate or sense or go there. Actually, what really takes my attention is that why the king and the queen's chamber correspond to these two stars. Usually we would say the sun and the moon is the king and the queen. But why do they correspond to these two stars? And there's another coincidence, Grandmaster says. In the whole world, these, they're in astronomy. Everybody has the same name of Sirius. They usually will name it either with a dog or a wolf. Yeah. So, yeah. We call this in Chinese, it's like the heavenly wolf is the Sirius. So they call it heavenly wolf star. And so ancient Chinese, they always say if it's Sirius or the heavenly wolf star has something happen on this star, then it means that there's invasion. So this star indicates some invasion. And so this is the ancient Chinese indicate that. So in different civilizations, maybe they mean the same. What would the wolf do? Usually wolf will invade or attack, right? So the Chinese people named it heavenly wolf, which is the Sirius. And in Harry Potter, they also have the Sirius, and they also has the name of the Sirius, and he also means the wolf, the heavenly wolf. Yeah, the Sirius. Egyptian people call it Sirius, which means also the heavenly wolf. And also in Britain and France, they also call it's like a heavenly wolf, or it's called a big dog. So that star is actually called Canis Major in the Orion belt. So this Canis Major is a fixed star, is 20 times bigger than the sun, and its light is much brighter than the sun. So the distance between the Earth and the sun, and the distance between the Earth and Sirius is much longer. So even the light would need to travel over 8 years. So yeah, I think it's 8 point something light year for that distance between the Earth and the Sirius. I'm really interested in these correspondence with the constellations. Yeah, and well, the kings and the queens, of course, they all want to say that, oh, I'm on behalf of heaven or to govern the country. But these three major pyramids, they pick the location which corresponds to the Orion belt, these three major stars, including the Canis Major, and also the Nile River correspond to the Milky Way. And Joyce also just mentioned that, the brightest star in Orion belt, which is the Canis Major. The Sirius shines directly into the Queen's chamber, and Canis Major shines directly into the King's chamber. So I'm just wondering, so this is what Christine said. I wonder whether human beings are able to understand all these, like the Chinese observers, astronomers called 四天. If human beings already understand all of those, they must have recorded, right? So such accurate and exquisite design, pointing directly to the exact south, east, north, and west. Sometimes when I don't have a compass in the desert, I won't be able to find the exact south and east and north and west. So it was like over 4,000 years ago. And we were just able to polish those bronzeware, and they were already able to distinguish the exact, east and west and south and north, and extreme accurate. And as if there's someone in the sky and just did a projection on the earth. And is that a human being? No, it must be a heavenly being or a divine being. Elon Musk's spaceship maybe can go there and take a picture. At that time, they cannot fly. So I don't think human beings at that time was able to do that. Maybe that's just that was a deity or heavenly being who did that, or so the king's chamber and the queen's chamber, that so-called ventilation hole point directly to those two stars. Why do they point to those two stars? Grandmaster asked. And so this series has a lot of connection with the Egyptians in the Egyptian ancient culture. Series, every year, one day in a year, Sirius will rise with the sun once a year, and usually it would be the summer solstice, and so it's like it's almost like two stars rising. One is the sun, and one is the Sirius. And that day, the Nile River will start to flow, and so the Nile River water will irrigate the neighboring, fields so that day the ancient Egyptian people will call that the first day of the year. It is like, the New Year's Day, or for Chinese people, it's like the Lunar New Year's Day. And so when Sirius and sun rise together, so Grandmaster says, see, New Year always has something to do with astronomy, with the sky, right? And so ever since that year, when the next year the Sirius and rise together with the sun.
差不多就365。
Yeah, so it will be very accurately like 365.25 days later, Sirius will rise again together with the sun. Yeah, oh my gosh, yes. So this series gives them a lot of
就说这个非洲人哈，
inspirations
非洲的
and
有一部分啊，
Grandmaster
部落
says, I
民族
heard
哈
some
都
tribes
会
in
自认为说
Africa,
他
they
们
think
这
that
个整个
they
祖先到他们整个
their
文化的起源这种
ancestors
知识
and the
都是来
origins
自于
of
天
their
狼星。
culture actually
所以
are
在非洲有
coming
很大的
from
一部分这天狼星是
Sirius. So
非常的
a
崇
lot
拜
of
的
people in Africa, they worship Sirius. And Egypt is also in Africa, right? Yeah. So another question Grandmaster
怎么
says,
非得对天狼星呢？
why this point
据
directly
说哈，
to
据
Sirius?
说啊，江湖传说这个
I
天狼星
heard,
上有
okay, I heard
它类似于人的生
this
命哈。
Sirius.
我们把它
There are
称为
lives
蜥蜴
in Sirius.
这两栖的动物。
And they call the
蜥蜴。
people on
哎，你比
Sirius
如说鳄鱼也是蜥蜴类的一种。
reptiles,
是。
or
既能在水里生
so
活，
they
对，在
they
陆地。
are amphibian. Yeah, so they
对。
can live both on land and in water, like
但是它
yeah.
们是人，
So
属于
it's
人的
like
一
the
种
lizard
所谓。
being, a lizard man, but they are also a kind of human being.
对，就是高智商、高智慧的
But
生
they
命。
have very high
其实它可能
intelligence,
远远超越了人。
and so they're called like reptilian.
就据说，
So I've
它们
heard
的形
Grandmaster
象呢，
said
也
that
与
there are
地
these
上
beings like
的
reptilians
这个土地上的
living
这个
on
蜥蜴类
Sirius, and
也
they
有
have
近似之处。
something to do also very similar to the lizard
天狼星人
on the
还
earth.
是这个古埃及跟这个天狼星有一些密
Yeah,
切
so
的
the
联系。
ancient,
对，
so Joyce said that ancient Egypt has a very close relationship with the Sirius. So now, so this is the relationship, has something to do with astronomy. Now let's talk about the internal structure. So we have these,
整个在这个向导之中啊，
we have these chambers, and we also have these
可是呢里头
causeway.
咱不就知道
and
有几个
So there are lots of
也没有
murals.
揭开房顶什么 skylight 这天什么
天窗啊，
天窗
Yeah.
之类的，对。
都没有。
There was no, but there was no light. There's no
要是画的话
skylight,
照明不
and
可能吧？
对，
啊，那这
how can they be
那个时候一想就是这个
illuminate?
火把
Yeah.
对不对
So
对。
打火把的话，就得想
at that time, maybe we will imagine that they're using torch, or maybe they're yeah. But if they use torch, the ceiling would be kind of dark, right? After thousands of years, at least even if it's not black, then you at least can find some, dust like from the torch. And so the scientists took all the dust over in these chambers and in these corridors, and they didn't find anything left over from the torch. And maybe they're just they have to use the highest level vacuum cleaner, or maybe the light from Sirius shines through the ventilation holes, and yeah, but it's impossible because the light only shines directly into the queen's chamber, and all these corridors, they are winding around. Well, you're understanding this way. Well, say for example, now we have a antique car for 20 years. It hasn't run. Would it be able to run? And there's no electricity. There's no fuel.
对，
Yeah.
所以如果有汽油呢，
If there's
有
fuel
有有气
inside
呢
and they have
它就
also
跑起来了嘛，
tire and
是吧？
there's air in the tire, then it can also run, right?
是，
天狼星能的 LED 灯，
你
So
很聪明
okay.
就现在
Oh,
说
so
金字
Christine
塔
said
啊
it's an
现在
LED
没
light.
电啊
Oh, now the
它原来哈，它里头是
pyramid, there's no light. In before, it was actually
是点火把，
yeah, it was bright inside. It has
对
light
呀，
by itself. So
不是你
what
分
is
分能源干
yeah,
嘛？
where does that energy source come from? Why should you talk about that energy source? It just illuminates by itself, Grandmaster says. Yeah. So this is the first hypothesis. Well, is that the Pharaoh's tomb? How come it's very bright? Who said that's Pharaoh's tomb? Joy said, I learned that. My teacher said, but who's your teacher, Grandmaster said. So it doesn't necessarily to be Pharaoh's tomb. Okay, so now let's discuss whether it is the tomb for the pharaohs. But in the pyramid, in the big pyramid, they didn't find any dead body or mummies. Yeah, you call it a coffin. Yeah, it's just you call it a stone coffin, but it's just a stone box, right? Maybe a matchbox or what? What are they? Why do they have those stone boxes? What's that for? If it is a tomb, then they need to have coffins and they need to have dead bodies, right? But the pyramid Khufu, they don't have anything. But some people say because there are people stealing from this pyramid, but they just clean it so thoroughly. Yeah. You know, when Chinese emperors, they are buried, there will be so many buried objects. They have gold and silver. How come those people who steal everything, they even had a vacuum cleaner and all the cleaning agents and clean it completely, thoroughly clean? So how come there's nothing, no mummies, no dead bodies there? Yeah. And also in this pyramid, in addition to those corridors, this pyramid is not actually hollow. It's actually solid. It's completely constructed. Almost. Yeah, it's like a pier. You just pierced 2 holes there. Yeah, and all the other parts are solid. And okay, yeah, let's think about the architecture. They just pierce 2 holes there and it doesn't collapse, and there's no poles, right? Yeah, there's no poles, and it's just like a toothpick pierce 2 holes in the pier, right? So this is another mysterious thing. So this is a challenge for our teacher. So our teacher teach us this is Pharaoh's tombs, and they didn't find any burial objects. Maybe somebody stole from it and also did a complete vacuum cleaning. And also for tombs, a lot of whatever country, all the tombs are buried underground. But this pyramid, whether it is the king's chamber or the queen's chamber, it is above the earth, even though it is inside the stones. But so first of all, Grandmaster says this, first of all, is not a tomb. So at that time, the human beings, either they would catch some rabbits to eat or get some wild plants to eat. So they're either doing hunting or picking. So it's very original and pretty poor, I should say. And so in those ancient times, so think about it, even if it is a man-made big stuff, how many human force would have to be put on it to build this, to bury a dead body? And it would be hard to explain to all his people, right? The king, how can the king explain to his people to put so much man force, and let alone that his body is actually not there? And so, yeah, to build such a huge pyramid, to put such a small stone box, and compared to a small body, yeah, the size is not comparable. Yeah, a human body compared to like hundreds of thousands of times the size of a pyramid. It's not comparable. So there are evidence to support your hypothesis. We think that these are, some people say these are tombs, but somebody noticed that there's a Valley of Kings. There was the Valley of Kings are actually the tombs for the pharaohs, and so the mummies and the tombs are actually buried underground. So this is like the normal kind of tomb, right? How far away are the Valley of Kings to the pyramid? Over 180 kilometers, not very close. So that Valley of Kings are the actual tombs. They are not so extravagant, and also inside the tombs they have all the writtens, like whose tomb, and they have inscriptions. They have also other jewelries and other burial objects. And so, but for these pyramids, especially the pyramid of Khufu, they don't have any mummies, and they just see a stone box and there's no mummies and nothing. So, okay, if the Khufu, have we found Pharaoh Khufu's tomb or mummy in the Valley of Kings? So this is also a very it's also a mystery. Yeah, Grandmaster said it will never be able to find. We don't know where it goes. So, okay, let's slowly find out. But they actually found in the Valley of Kings some other tombs. They have the tombs and they also have the temples. So in the temples, they have a lot of murals. They have a lot of also very mysterious things. So let's take a look inside the temples. Oh, no. Ancient Egyptian. They laugh because Joyce said it's ancient Indian. Anyway, so the left one is shining. And you can see that it's like a hat, right? Or I don't think it's a hat. It's like an oval kind of. It really looks like an UFO. Yeah. And there's also a human being or a being, and his head is actually very flat. Really look like the reptilians that Grandmaster you just mentioned. And this is depicted in the murals in the temple. And also, this mural feels like the energy, and it feels like, the thunder and the energy. And these arrows, and on the right side there are lots of pictures. This in the Egyptian murals, so it's in the east of Egypt, and the temple in the east Egypt. There is the helicopter, and on the left upper side is the helicopter, on the right upper side is the tank, and in the middle, is it like a UFO? Also, it's like a submarine, or a submarine, or an aircraft, or and the lower right looks like a gun. Yeah, it looks like these modern vehicles and equipments. But this mural is from like 3,000 years ago, and so all these military people, maybe they have to go past beyond time and space and tell those ancient Egyptians to pen those. Or do they actually have these, or are these just a prophecy? So Grandmaster said maybe it is a prophecy. Some people had divine eyes and was able to see the future in another time and space. Maybe 4,000, 5,000 years later, it would be like this. And so someone who had divine eyes was able to see. And because they didn't have any, written records there, but just these pictures, so we have to just assume. And so let's look at other pyramids. In Egypt, we have over 100 pyramids. And so in other pyramids, they have these interesting murals. These murals are very interesting. This is not like a shower, okay? So this circle on the top is a UFO. It's not a sun. It's the light shines from that circle. You see the circle? It has a handle. It's just like a grape has a lid. It has a, so the sun doesn't have a handle, right? And also, this is the energy. Look, the energy shines down. And the human beings are not like regular human beings. How come they have a very sharp and pointy hat? Maybe the human beings at that times are like this. And look at their body. They have very small waist. Ancient Egyptian people like small waist. No, the ratio is not really right, Grandmaster said. And Christine said they're so tall. And they're higher and lower beings. And maybe that's a decoration on the head, or maybe not. But at least they're worshiping and receiving what is shining down. Both of their hands are accepting and receiving the energy. It's just like when we are receiving Buddha light. So this is a worshiping, Grandmaster said. And also there's some hieroglyph that recorded Amenhotep the fourth. Which means, coming from heaven, or So the Pharaoh's name, Amenhotep, means the person who meet people from heaven. So what kind of being? Is that a human being or a heavenly being? Or they look a little bit like human beings. So Master said, they look a little bit similar like human beings. We usually like to call them like human in Chinese. And there's another being who looks like the Sphinx. He's also receiving the energy from that, whatever should be called, that ball. And this mural is in an ancient Egyptian pyramid. Pharaoh and, let's look at the person or being on the right. It really looks like an alien. And we would usually call these beings, so we usually call them aliens, who are very big eyes, Grandmaster said, and very long body, very big head, full of wisdom. And another picture is from also an ancient Egyptian mural. On the base is also very big eyes and really look like aliens. But this face has a little bit, Grandmaster says, look like a wolf, because on top of the face it has these sharp ears, like a wolf or a cat, right? So these are what left from that time. So Christine is assuming that at that time, the ancient Egyptians, they have already seen aliens. So like what we say, like big head and big eyes and, so what we usually will describe as aliens. Grandmaster said definitely they have already seen aliens, and this can be proved by coins. At that time, we now are called these coins. At that time, I think they are probably, they were not coins. Yeah, just metal coins. So this coin was discovered in 1970s by some archaeologists, and so this pyramid has recorded second in his tomb, and they digged out the mummy, and in his pyramid, there's his, this is a normal, tomb, like with his mummy there. But interesting, beside his pyramid, there's a small pyramid. There's also a small mummy, which is only between 1.5 to 1.6 meters, and it looks like this, and it looks like an alien, not really like a human being. So who was he? And so usually on the tombs they will have inscriptions, and they will say who this person is and what happened. And so the pharaoh, they would say, oh, what dynasty he was from and what was his name. And on this, beside this mummy, there was also inscriptions on the tomb of the mummy, and it shows so this mummy, and it says his name is Osiris, which means Osiris is the king's advisor, and Osiris means star or the messenger from heaven, or the or the emissary of the heaven. And also he had been buried with a lot of burial objects and very luxuriously buried. And mummies, we understand mummies as ancient Egyptian, they use some specific ways to preserve their dead body, so they have to use some specific preservatives. And however, after they analyze this alien's mummy, the preservative that they use for this mummy is completely different from the preservatives that use for other human mummies. And it also, this preservative also successfully, preserved the mummy. And so aliens became mummies on Earth, Grandmaster said. Oh, this is very interesting. And the inscription also has indicated very clearly that this is the pharaoh's advisor. And also Osiris also means, his name Osiris means, the emissary from heaven. And so this coin is together with the pharaoh's mummy. So we would assume that this pharaoh is very grateful for this advisor. We thought that this is just, like a souvenir, like a commemorative coin. But what are these coins for? Oh, Grandmaster said maybe this coin is for going there. Where did the aliens come from? Sirius. Yeah, Sirius. So this is like a ticket to go to Sirius? Okay, let me tell you. Wow, these are secrets, divine secrets. You need to pay for for me, Grandmaster said, to tell you these secrets. So how to get back to Sirius? So he gave this coin so that you can go there. So this is not like a currency. So this is like a passport, or this is like a pass. Yeah, so this is a very good evidence, Joy said. Not only aliens exist in ancient Egypt, and he was even the national advisor for the pharaoh. Wow, it's because that they have these national advisors so that human wisdom or human technology for things that human cannot do or cannot solve, then he can actually help them to achieve. So Christine said, yeah, that's why I said, yeah, there must be aliens took a picture of the stars and the Milky Way. And so, yeah, not necessarily this specific alien, but someone like him who actually visited the earth and Duang, he instantly built that pyramid. And so we have already mentioned about all these, construction skills and materials, the transportation, and all the analysis and all the. It's impossible for human beings to construct such a pyramid. And in ancient Egypt, actually, they have a lot of records, and at the time they also have paper that is made by papyrus. Yeah, so these papyrus paper was also buried in the tombs, in the pharaoh's tomb, and we found these Tuli papyrus. It is a document from ancient Egypt, and it actually is the earliest report for UFO. Okay, let me tell you. So it was 1,480 years BC. So one day, it was during the time of King Thutmose III of ancient Egypt. Yeah, so King Thutmose III of ancient Egypt, it was the 6th hour of the second day of something. In the year 22, on the 3rd month of winter, the 6th hour of the day, among the scribes of the house of life, it was found that a strange fairy disk was coming in the sky. Yeah. It had no head. The breast of its mouth emitted a foul odor. Its body was 1 rod in length and 1 rod in width. It had no voice, no sound. It came toward His Majesty's house. And all the people, when they saw, their hearts became confused through it, and they fell upon their bellies, and they also went to the king to report it. His Majesty ordered that the scrolls located in the House of Life be consulted. So after several days had passed, these kind of fairy discs, they became more numerous in the sky than ever. They shine in the sky more than the brightness of the sun and extended to the limits of the 4 supports of heaven. They think that the heaven was supported by 4 supports and 4 polars. And the powerful was the position of the fairy discs. And the army of the king looked on with His Majesty in their midst. It was after the evening meal when the disc ascended even higher in the sky to the south. Fish and other volatiles rained down from the sky, a marvel never before known since the foundation of the country. And His Majesty caused incense to be brought to the appease the heart, to appease the heart of Amuri, the god of the two lands, and it was ordered that the event be recorded for His Majesty in the annals of the House of Life to be remembered forever. Yeah, so if human beings had ever seen that, there must be a record. If human beings had ever seen anything, they will definitely record it. But yeah, all the construction of pyramid, there's no, blueprints or designs or record about any opening ceremony or how do they use any materials, where did the material come from, and how many people were or labor were involved, and it was like nothing recorded and completely blank, and all of a sudden the pyramid was built. And so sometimes a lot of the mysterious things are not allowed to be recorded, Joyce said. And say, for example, oh, okay. For example, oh, okay, I understand what you say. So some mysterious thing cannot be disclosed. You cannot, yeah. Just for us to be able to see is already a privilege. Oh, just now we have seen a mural, on the Sphinx. Yeah, so there's also this UFO on the tule papyrus paper. So this Sphinx was carrying this vehicle like a UFO on his back. It doesn't look like the airplane right now. And it landed on the back of the Sphinx. And what does that mean? So, I'm just, so Joyce was assuming that this is like the airport of this Sphinx, or the, so Grandmaster says Sphinx, from what I understand, it's actually 75 meters long, including the paws. And so the back of the Sphinx would be over 38 meters long and also very wide. And so you see the UFO. So you can imagine how big the UFO would be. It would be over 30 meters in diameter. So now you would have a rough idea of how big the UFO is. Yeah.
So speaking of the Great Sphinx, it is another miracle. It is 75 meters long. And let me tell you, it is actually carved out of one piece of rock. So it's unlike the pyramid that it is put together by pieces of rock. The Sphinx is actually carved right out of one single piece of rock. So where did this piece of rock come from? Uli said that it's easier to use bricks, stones, right? Or maybe humans can move bricks, but we can't move this Sphinx. So when people were researching about the pyramids of Khufu, maybe they studied the Sphinx as well. It's difficult to say whether it's all pieces of stones inside the Sphinx. We don't know what's inside the body of the Sphinx. However, the archaeologists actually discovered some secrets in the body of the Sphinx. They actually discovered a tomb with 3 levels beneath the body of the Great Sphinx. And the excavation of this tomb took 65 years. The excavation only completed in 1999. And the paintings on the tomb wall depicts that the niche were the residence of ancient Egyptian god Osiris, who is the god of afterlife, the god of the underworld. And in this tomb, they actually found inscriptions, a sarcophagus, a stone coffin with inscriptions of a unknown language. So usually the inscription in Egypt are hieroglyphs, but the inscription on this stone coffin, nobody knows what it says. And there are 4 pillars standing on each corner of the chamber, and on these pillars, the writing is it is a hieroglyphic writing. And the writing indicates that it's god Osiris, that it is a residence of the god Osiris. It's not a tomb for the god, but it's a residence. And when they discovered this stone coffin, the stone coffin was covered in water. The water was 3 times the height of the stone coffin. And upon close examination, the stone coffin was tightly sealed. And there's no air coming in and out of the coffin, and there's no water inside the coffin. And they used advanced technology to open the stone coffin. But when they opened it, they discovered that it's empty. And when the stone coffin was discovered, the entire chamber was full of water. So it is believed that this chamber has never been robbed. And so the only explanation is that the stone coffin is empty from the beginning, that there's no mummy, there's nothing, there's no grave goods at all. And although we're calling it a stone coffin, Master mentioned before that it's just a box. And later, a scholar recalled a record in the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu. It is said that ancient Egyptian god Osiris came to earth from the heaven. And when it's time for his return to the God's world, he will use a special gateway to return to his world, to the world of gods. And where is this world? We don't know. But the record just says that when it's time for him to go home, he will go home through a special gateway. And so the unknown language inscribed on the stone coffin was deciphered later on. And that inscription also corresponds to this hypothesis that the god will return to his world through this stone box. And also another ancient record actually says that Osiris is not from Earth. He actually came from the Orion constellation. So the star Sirius is actually close by to the Orion constellation. And so the Sphinx and the stone coffin, the stone box, they are not coffins, they are not part of the tomb. And so it is actually a travel device. And once you go inside that stone box, you can travel through time and space. And so this is actually the same stone box as the empty stone box in Pharaoh Khufu's pyramid. And so Osiris, he also used the energy from the water. So the Great Pyramid of Khufu, Master mentioned that there is energy inside that pyramid that powers the pyramid itself. And also, the way of travel is also pointed out. The king and queen are going to different stars. Why wouldn't the
他的
king
本
and
源
the
在一块
queen
儿
go to different
他到这儿来
stars?
到
Why
地
don't they
球
go to
上
the
啊
same star?
是来做事儿的，
They actually
到
came
这儿
from
来
different
跟
stars
下
and
乡
they
一样才
came
认识
to
才结的婚，
Earth and met,
但是两个
and
都
they
是
had
神
a
呐
purpose, and both
对
of them they are
师傅说的
gods.
这个我也相信，就是说法老也不一定是地球人。
I
还有
believe what
法老也
Master
不
said
不
that
是代表是
these
真正的
pharaohs
国
are
王，对
not
吧？
earth,
他们
earthly
集
beings.
合
They're
了有点
not
统
earthen
神教
deities.
和政治统一的这样的
They,
一个
Wuli says, they are a
对，有
spiritual,
可能，
highly
其实因为
spiritual
他这个
person
神通太
that
强
is a head of
所以既
state
不
and
是
head
国
of
王
religion.
啊，但
Because
是
they
呢，
are,
他这个能
they
力
have
这么
very
强，最后
special spiritual
把他可能
powers.
弄成法
They
老
are
这个
not
名字了，
just
就是最
simply
有
a
权力的人，
king.
对对
That's
因为
why
他
they're
是最有
called
能
a
力的人，
pharaoh, because they
就是
have
这
the
样，
most abilities.
对，所以我们现在可以理解了
And
哈，
so now we can
啊，这
understand
个金字塔
the
啊，整个这
pyramid,
个大系统
the system of
好
pyramids
像不太像人间，
doesn't look like to be
因为
built
这个
by
尤其是大
human
金字塔
beings,
这个，
especially
再
the
加上这
Great
个狮身人
Pyramid
面像下
and
面
also the
这个阎王爷的
Sphinx,
这个住所，
the residence
哎，
of
这才叫住所。
Osiris.
但是而且还记下来了，
And also
有这
it's
个
inscribed,
UFO 停留在这
and
个
also
狮
it's
身人面像的后
recorded
背上面，
that that UFO
没错呀，
landed on the
那
back
谁在
of
上
the
架飞机
Osiris.
啊？
Then who is going on and off the UFO?
飞向了那个弗吉尼
And
王
also
王
the inscription said that the UFO
是，
flew toward the pyramid. Were they
这都有可能。
sending someone there, or
所以为什么里头是空
is that
的呢？
UFO picking someone up? So why is that
它也
stone
没有它
box
的尸体，
empty?
没有，
There's
因为
no
它
mummy,
走
there's no corpse, because that
因为
person
它不
has
是普
left,
通的人类，
because
它
that
本来就不属于地
being, that entity,
球，它到这儿来
is
下
not
乡
a
的，
human being.
还
He
到这儿来
didn't
办事儿
belong to Earth. They just
所以
came here to do their
留
job.
下了一些文明。
哎，
They
所以
left
因此
some
呢，
civilization, some culture,
大金字塔，
大金字塔
and
这个标志性
thereby
大金字塔，
the Great Pyramid
它不是坟墓，
is not a
但是
tomb.
它有它独特的用途。
It has a
我
very
在想啊，
special,
在那个时
unique
期，
function.
就像你回到乡
Maybe
下农
back
村一样，
then, say
大
that
家
if
都是农
you
耕生活，
if you go back
就
to
是
the
知
village,
道
everyone
我有权
is
利，你给我买架直升飞
makes a
机吧，
living by
那是不可
agriculture.
能的呀，对
If
不对？
the
大家能
chief
给你
of
凑
the
钱买个
village
油车就不
say,
错了。
okay, everybody,
直升
let's
飞机
put
来，
some
对不
money
对？
together and
所以
buy
在
a
那样的一个
helicopter.
原始状态
But
下，
that's not
国王
possible.
其实都想不
Under
出修这么
such
一个超大的石头的，
under
而且令
such
人
a
无论怎样都理解不
under
了
such
的这样
time
一个
period,
大石
the
头山，
king
他做的这么
there,
严丝
there's
合
no
缝、精
way
密
that
无
he
比的
can
高科技的，
imagine
他现在
something
干
like
嘛
a
呢？
stone mountain so that people
那个坟
build
墓
this
都放
mountain
在陪
without
葬品就
any
完了，
space
就帝王
between
谷里面
the
来了一
the
群
stones.
国王，
是
对呀，
In
就
the
这样就
many
行了。
all the
对，
kings
所以
and the
他修
royalties
这
are
个东西，
are buried in the
他
valley
修
of
就是
kings.
他就是谁
Then
啊？
why
修
was
这个东
this
西，
pyramid
为什么
built?
这个胡夫
Who built
这
it?
个老法老不
Why
在
did
这
they
上？
build it? And why
他
isn't Pharaoh
他
Khufu
去
in
了哪里
there?
都应该很清
Where
楚，
did
对
he
不对？
go?
什么星座儿？
猎户座，
We should
猎户
know
座。
where he went.
啊
Which constellation?
那他太太呢？
The Orion
你
constellation.
看，
And what about his wife?
狠的还是他太太。
The star
啊所
Sirius.
以一般的女的不好斗，所以不要轻易惹女的。
So-
是这样你们俩记住。
In Chinese, the star Sirius
啊
means
他是谁听谁
the
的。
sky wolf.
哎
That's why Master
就是
says
慢
that
慢地
the
才能
queen
扩
is a
大
very
完美
um
的搭档，然后呢
sharp
就是
person.
完成了这他们的各自
And
的
so
使命
they, Uli says, they are a
是
good partner. And
回归了。
after they finish
他
their
们
job,
回
they
是
go
他
back
们的来
to
回
each of their
这个
homes.
行为
And
是否
their travel
就像
from
飞机来回今天的
and
飞机来回出没
from
的
their
时候
home
是不是还
star
需要一
to
个
Earth
飞机
and
场，
going back? Do they need
对不对？
an airport?
今天我
Do
们
they
正
need
常
a
的飞机啊，
runway?
无论军用的
For
飞机
example,
还是客人
an
飞机，对
airplane
不对？
today, whether it's
它
a
都需要
commercial
整个
plane
设
or
备
a
和一
military
个平
plane,
坦的场
you
地，
need
还有能
equipment,
载
you
动
need
又
flat
平又
land,
载
you
动的这么一
need
个这个
a
起
place
落
where
的起落屏
where the
啊，就用
where the
强标化
airplane
的水
can
泥
take off
铺得
and
非常
land.
平整的那
You
个
need a
飞
very
机起降的那个地方。
strong concrete
所以
paved
这个是不是
road.
有这么个关系？
So does the
就像
Sphinx serve that
我们也不
purpose?
要理解成，因为比如说他到这儿过了到天狼星，啊，
We can't just think that from Earth to the star Sirius takes 8 or so many light years. But it's actually a very slow process. Let me ask you, how did they fly over? They were on board of the UFO, right? Or do they not need to take the UFO? They just go into the stone box. Have you seen UFOs flying in the air? If you have seen it, then you will have a bit more feeling about it. UFO, they can fly at an extremely high speed. A helicopter, if it has a travel path, and you can visualize and see that path. Especially the traditional airplanes, you can see their landing. But the UFO, how do they fly? In one split second, it can suddenly move from this position to another position that is 50 kilometers away under 1 second. And before you realize it, it changed its position again. And its speed seems to be even faster than the speed of your mind. It takes the speed of mind. We know we measure the sound, the speed of sound, and you see the airplane flying in, and then you hear its sound. But what about sunlight, the speed of light? The speed of light is faster. And we know how fast it is. If we if we calculate the time of travel from Earth to star Sirius using the speed of light, it uses 8 years. But what if it's ultra fast speed? And the speed of mind, it actually doesn't have the concept of space, and it transcends that concept. As long as you think about it, you will be able to arrive. If you think of something, that object will arrive. If you think where you want to go, you will arrive at that speed, that space. You say that it's 8 light years to travel from Earth to star Sirius, but when you think about it, they arrive there instantly, and you don't have to walk out of the UFO. There's no process of walking. Woolley says, so how they return to their star, it is better. It is more advanced than human aerial technology. The speed of mind is very interesting because we can measure the speed of light. We can say that from Earth to star Sirius, it is 8 light years, and we can say that from the Earth to the Sun, the light needs to travel for 8 minutes. But with your mind, there's no difference. No matter how far it is, it's just a split second. It's an instant travel. Say that it's difficult to travel through time, that we cannot travel backward to 1 hour ago or travel to our past life. We can't even do that in our dream. But what about space? Space is even more difficult to travel. Many people miss their friends who are far away because you can't see them and you want to see them. But their speed of travel transcends the barrier of space. Say that if I want to go to New York, then I will instantly be in New York. Then I'm shopping in New York on the streets, and maybe someone will take a picture of me there. I'll buy
a skewer of sweet hornstone there. So this is a speed of mind. When you can travel by your mind, then you have broken the barrier of space and time. Usually, when we think of travel, we have to use some sort of device, whether we're walking or riding a bicycle, driving a car, and there is a process of how we travel. But what about the speed of mind? When you travel by your mind, don't think about it. When you think about it, you're there. Do you know why UFO travel in all random places? It's because it's traveling by its mind. There's no process of its travel. It didn't fly over to a different position. So if you think about quantum principles, then you will understand what I'm talking about. This is how they use advanced technology. So both Jue and Wu Li has a problem, has a question. So entities that travel by their mind, so they can't just think of I want to go back to my home on Star Sirius. They have to use some sort of threshold, a gateway to do it, right? Say that if you want to call someone, you have to use a phone. If you want to have a massage, you have to lay on your belly. And there is a tool for it. And this tool is for travel is the pyramid. Master said that the pyramid is an energy device, right? Master said the pyramid is half of the equipment or the threshold for it to break through time and space. When it's ready to leave, there's another half that comes close to him so that there is some sort of cooperation or resonance so that it can immediately travel in an instant. And so Pharaoh Khufu, they traveled back to his home and didn't came back. Maybe he has more important jobs over there. And he left some traces of him in this world. And the pyramid wouldn't sink because there is another secret that extraterrestrial beings and intelligent beings will use this location to assist or control something on Earth. Master, my question is that the pyramid has successfully sent Pharaoh Khufu to the Orion constellation. Did it send someone else back to their home as well? Master said, probably, I believe so. Whether it's a god or an extraterrestrial being, they used it takes a lot of effort to build such a grand architecture here. And also, so they can't just use it to send one person. Probably many people were sent. And also, when they are on Earth, they develop relationship and connection to human beings. And those people, and also some of the objects that they have used, they might want to bring those people and things away as well. And Jue has another question. Are these pyramids being used now? Maybe. Master says yes, because they are still using the pyramid to travel to the Star Sirius or to Orion constellation. When something comes, when an extraterrestrial equipment like UFO comes to that place, it will take some people with them and travel
So do we see? Will we observe UFO around the pyramids? Probably.
人类能看清它，所以
And
在金
also-
字塔附近经常起现浓烟、浓雾、
And also
沙尘暴
because
就让你看
they
不
want
清
to
它，它
prevent
就来
people
了。
from observing the UFO, they will cause some
还有
dust
他们
storms
来的时候也有
or
的时候借用云，
severe fogs
它来
or
了
very cloudy
它会用
days
方
so
法
that
它有很多乌云密布过来
it
了
can take shade
但是呢，
behind
因为
these
当今的
natural
人啊，
phenomena so
有
that
了
they
这个
are
摄
not
像机，
observed
这个
by
外星人没
humans.
想到这个手机拍
And
摄普及的这么厉害。
But the
因为
aliens
人手一个
probably
摄像
didn't
机，
realize
对不对？
that how
随时拍，
technology has
所以就
advanced,
现
that
在拍了
everyone
大
has a
量
mobile phone
这样的
and can
外
take
星的
pictures and
在地
record
球上
images of them
来访
so
问这个画面
easily.
大家可
But
以看到胡夫金字塔有外星
and
这
so
种
many
飞
people
船
have
在这来
observed
访问。
UFOs and extraterrestrial entities visiting these Great Pyramids. Maybe in the future, some people will go to Mars with Mr. Musk, and some people they might have karmic connections with Pharaoh Khufu, and they will be able to go to Star Sirius
跟着我
or
们去东西
Orion
方极乐世界
constellation with him.
那我们还是跟着师傅吧。
And maybe
所以
some
你们
people
讲的
will
地方
follow me.
反正咱们的
Master
地方
says
是这样。
some people might be able to follow me to the Eastern Pure Land.
刚才大家在金字塔那张照片哈，
You
有
saw
个圆形 UFO，
around
它往上放那个
UFO
光的时候，正是
nearby
晚上带人
the
和带物的
Great
时候。
Pyramid,
这
and
现在
that
还在
light
工作中。
beneath it
哎，
is
对，和它相关的生命，
indicates
咱
that
们这
it's
个时候说，
taking
哎，我要
someone
回
or
家
something away. Maybe a being.
输送，或者是它就是正
So
好是一个
these
通
extraterrestrial
接人接物的
entities
一个过程。
are being transported, whether it's coming in to
所以
Earth
它
or
要这样的一
leaving
个配
Earth.
合才能通过。
And so they need
要不然
this
的话不容易。
cooperation to
我还
come
觉得
in
呢
and
是
get
外
out.
星人在地球
And
上
also,
的
I
一
think
个
that
比较固定的一个联络站。
it is a
所以他才
communication station on
什么
Earth.
是数据啊哈，就是
And so a lot of
天上的什么方位啊，它有一些意义
so we
对
so
可能我们没有发现的一些数字的含义。
对，
the
他们
the
很
numbers
清
that
楚
we mentioned,
我们
the
在
cardinal
这个几千年里面
alignment
没
that we
办法破解
mentioned, maybe
所以
it
他
all
们才
has
住
a
在
specific
这
meaning.
个金字
And
塔的
for
下面。
for thousands of
这样
years,
所以
we
等于它毫发无损地
we
抵
cannot
押
uncover the
像一个超级宫
the
殿一样
secret of these pyramids, and maybe there's still some
所以才
of these
有了那么
amazing
多的奇
entities
迹。
living
所以
beneath
说，
the
通常是3-2
pyramid.
个月就会有人拍摄到，
And
又有
so
飞
it's
碟
a
啊，在
it's
金字塔上的
amazing
撞
that every 2-3 months
就是
people
这个
will
原
be
因他
able
们一直
to
在工作中。
take pictures, observe these UFOs
韩国人
close
当时
by to
他们
these
有
Great
来自
Pyramids.
星星的都教授，
啊，对，
So
埃及人他们就有
there is a Korean
天狼星
film,
的，还有
a
猎户
Korean drama.
嗯，
It's
法老
a Doctor
Pharaoh.
Do from
Oh, yeah.
the star, and
Oh.
Egyptians have pharaohs from the star.
外星人
And so these extraterrestrial beings, are they good people or bad
他这个
people?
就是人，我们本身议论好人坏人
When
这
we
件事儿啊
discuss good or
本身
bad
要分
people,
站在哪个
we
高度
have
看
to
其实在佛的那个
say
世界里
we
啊
have to
他
determine
在看人的
from
时
which
候
state,
我们一般
from
就是
what
两
state we are
两个
viewing
人制就是
people.
这是好人，这是坏人，是吧？在佛的某种高度的时候，
If you're
它其实说
looking
不
from the perspective of the Buddha, it's difficult to say whether a person is good or bad.
只蚂蚁是好，蚂蚁哪只
Uli says it's sort of
Yeah.
like when we
还有的
look
时候
at
你
two
说这个
ants
人
on the
脾气暴
ground, we
躁
don't know
别
whether
人把他
which
认
one
为
is
他
good,
孩子一定
which
是
one
坏
is
的，他总骂
bad.
我，要不就揍我，
If this person
是
is
吧？他闺女
always
挨骂，
gets
他儿子挨揍，
angry, his
但是等
children
长
might
大之
say
后，咱
that
很
he
怀
is
念
a
他，
bad
要不然
person.
我们就变坏
But
了。
after
你看
they
我父
grow
亲真是
up,
个好人，
they
他
might
只是脾
say
气有点
that
暴，对不
my
对？
dad is actually
但
a
这个
good person, he
小
just
时候
has
你
a
认为
bad
不好，长
temper.
大就认为好，死的时候
And
又很怀念。
when
请
you were
做一个
young,
结
you
语，他是好
you
人还是坏人？
say he's a bad
这没法
person,
说
but
嘛，
when you grow up, you
没
say
法说，
he's
对
a
不对？
good person.
但也许
And
他
after
的
he
理解
dies,
里
you
面
really
说这
miss
个是坏
him.
人，他总来骂
It's
我
so
的。
it's difficult to
但是
say, and
骂
maybe
人
the
在人
neighbors
家
will
的
say
时候
that he's a bad person because he
就说你怎么
he's
定义
always
好？
cursing or scolding others.
所以
So
我们
how
很
do you
难定义。
define good and bad
所以
people?
在当外星人，我们也可以
When
理解为是神哈。
these extraterrestrials come
神的
beings,
高度，
maybe they are deities, they are gods.
对，有天国。
高的
And
天，
also,
而且那个天的那个天国那个世界，
Buddha said that there's
性
a
别啊，生命长度不都有所
there's
介绍吗？
different
还
heavens,
经常谁和谁作战
and in
天国的人
each
也作战，
heaven
也矛盾，
they
就地方
have
越高，烦恼
different
越大
conflicts
越
as
多
well,
对不对？
and even
就
the
是这样，
worlds
而且
will
他们也打仗，
fight, will go to
对吧？
war with each
哎，
other.
所以问题就是说，
And so the question is, Jujin says,
那这些
from
外
Buddha's
星人啊，
perspective,
还是在六道之内的。
我
these
认为是， 就天狼星也是六
entities
道以内，
from Sirius,
对，
from Orion
有点欲望，
constellation, they are
但是他
still
的欲望
within the
可能
six
比普通
realms,
人
right?
人类的
They
欲望，
still have
人类看不
greed,
到他的欲望，
but
知道吗？
from a
啊，
human's
比如他让
perspective,
你
we
吃好吃
cannot
的，
see
他
their
就看着你，他
greed.
看你吃的好，吃的香，他很开心，他没有嫉妒你，
When
更
they
没跟你
see
抢
you
食，
eating some
对吧？
very delicious
哎，
food,
你
they
觉
are
得
not
哎拿了个
jealous,
珍珠，快
and
乐的
they
要
are
死，对
just
不对？
very happy.
因为他知道哦，
When
原来你
you
喜欢珍珠
have
啊，下次
a
多给你
pearl,
点，
you are very
他就很
happy.
开心。
And when they see you are happy,
但
they
是
will
说不
bring
定
you
他
a
正
lot
是
of
把某个
pearls.
月亮弄爆炸的那一个。
对呀，
但是
And
我们觉得，哎，我受不
although
了啊，我的
he
月亮
is
爆
very
炸了，
kind to you,
那对
maybe
他来
he
说
is
把
the
月
one
亮
that
弄爆一个是
exploded
对的，有
a
俩月亮的
moon
话，那地球
in
水一
the
口没有，
galaxy.
对，
对不对？所以这个好坏这个
So-
定义也分你的境界和生命高度、智慧的高度
So it,
才来认为的好和
whether a
坏。
person is good or bad, it really determines what your wisdom and what your perspective is.
那就有问题，来吧。
Another
那
question?
我们现在这些人呐，
So what about us?
咱们
We
跟
and our
他们
online
有
friends,
沟通吗？
有联系
can
吗？
we communicate
哦，一
with
定有，
these
谁都躲不开。
extraterrestrial
哦，
beings?
对，
Of
我
course,
可以这么说哈，
everyone will have, and
这
nobody
个
can
就是
avoid
光
it.
我们其实，如果你经常到晚上
At
出去
night,
溜达，胆子大
if
点
you
的哈，
always
胆子
take
小
a
的拎
walk
个
at
棍子啊，
night,
哎，背个菜刀之类的，你在晚上经常
and
没事儿你就瞅天空，
if you
我
always
觉得哈，
observe
100
the
次里
sky
头
at
可能有一
night,
次就赶上拍到了。它
every
几乎在
out of
这个
100
地球上
times
任
you
何一
will
个
at
地点
least see
都
them
会出
once,
现，
and they will show up anywhere on Earth.
都会出现的。
They will show up
当然，如
anywhere.
果你有缘看到它，
And if you
有时咱
have
盯了半天，
an
看着
opportunity
距
to
离有点
see
近，
it,
其实你和它已经发生了关系。
you are actually already made a connection with it.
他有没有比如说拿这个智慧芯片塞在你脑子里去？其实你不
Did
知道。
did that
哦，
entity
这给你洗了脑
place
哦，
an
但是通过第二
intelligent
天
chip
之后，
into your
会
brain?
说
You
法
don't
语
know. Maybe on the next day you know how to speak
哦
French.
天狼语，
哎，还有呢，
天狼语，
会狼叫了啊，哎，还有呢，比如说会弹钢琴了，
Maybe you will know how
是
to play the piano
个
suddenly.
没文化的人，
People
开始读书
who
了，
were
我
not
现在我工作
educated
很
can
忙了，
suddenly
没读书的老太太开始
can
做生意，
suddenly start
很忙
reading
啊，
and studying
我表
books
达一些
and
某
say
种
that you
思
will
想啊，
suddenly
我
be
要接受
able
真
to
啊
express
等等的，
yourself
他一个人
in
突然间
forms of
发生一些变
poem
化。
poetry.
还有呢，
So the
是
person
最
will
常见
suddenly
的就是
change,
这个人
and
可能
and
对通灵或者
frequently
有了一些通灵
these
的一些
people
神
will
迹，
have
比如说
psychic
治病，
abilities.
而且
They
这
can
手别人
heal
像电到一样，
others.
哎，但是他的痛好了，这种在
They
在
can
过去
rid
和
of
未
other
来
people
还
of
是
their
使用这
pain.
法。
And it has happened before in the past, and it
所以
will happen
很多
more
人
in the
很多地
future.
球人还是
So
受
many
恩惠于
Earth's
外星生命，
我
Earth
们笼统叫
beings,
外星生命，听起来好听，
they
其
have
实就是神。
benefited from
我们
these
对他来说，
extraterrestrial beings,
我
from
们看他，
these
他就是神。
deities. When we
所以
look
当
at
时
them,
古埃
they
及
are
的时候，
deities. And
他
so
不是
in
在猜
ancient
它是什么
India,
东西，
they
而
didn't
是
guess
忠
what
贞
these
到不得
beings
了，
are.
前面
They
跟他们跑。
respected it and followed these deities.
当国师
对呀，
And
那
so
个外星
even
人已
in
经是你国
Egypt,
师
the
啊，还有一
pharaoh
个那法老
took
不是普
the
通的人，
extraterrestrial being in as his counselor.
他
And
也
maybe
是
that pharaoh was
神人
not
合
a
体，
human
或者
being
是纯神，
as well. Maybe he
对，
is
是
mm,
这样。
a deity or
说那我们有个
a,
网友有
a
问啊，
demigod.
说那人群中是不是
There's
就
a
有
question
外
from
星人？
online
会不会
friend.
就
He
在我
said
们
that
旁边
is there
有，
extraterrestrial
就是说
beings
对，
among us humans? Is he beside us right
像
now?
天狼星来的啊，哎，哎，
是有啊，
有，
Is there?
嗯， 就是他
Yes, there
的
is.
他的能力和智慧，
Their
今
ability
天
and
成为
their
我们共同的语言
intelligence,
哈，就你很难发现它。
when they want
就
to
像那个美
become,
国电影上那个
when
超
they
人，对不对？
disguise themselves
刚才
as
前两
humans,
个
it's
妖魔
very
打了半
difficult
天
for
之后，
us to
回到
distinguish
这个报社里头，西装一穿，
distinguish
又说
them
我
as
不知道，
extraterrestrial
我怕
beings.
是吧？
It's
日本
like
的装，
Superman.
对呀，
When Superman
对，他只是说
pretends
那
to
个时候
be
他就来保护地球嘛，他
to
那时候
be
不是做一个社会治安，
the
他是
reporter,
保护地球， 是这样子的。
nobody knows
对，
that
所
he
以他这
is
个
an
这个
alien.
神的他
And
那种他的所想
and
所
these
知，或
deities,
所要干涉的
their
东西，
mind,
不是
their
我们的人，
perceptions,
不是
and
普
what
通
they
人所
want
关
to
心的事情，
change
它是
is
更高的。比如他觉得
usually
这个地球应该
normal
在，
human
比如
beings
说
doesn't
我们
care
的
what
地
these
球可能
deities are
还有
thinking
1000
about.
年就爆炸了，
And
但
they
比
might
如
be
说哈，
thinking, for example,
哎，
that the
有外
Earth
星人
will
说哦，
explode
我已经
in
看到
1,000
了，
years.
那个时候爆炸
And
的
the
原因是
alien
有一
might
个
say
超大的
that
一个彗星 会来
the Earth will
冲破了
explode
某
in the
个星球
future
来撞击地球，
because
而地
a
球呢躲
star
不过
will
它，
crush
对吧？
into
那
Earth.
他的话，他就要做准
And
备。如果是这样的话，
the alien
他
might want to
看了一下，
prepare,
一算，觉得哎，那我应
and
该从地球
they might
再出
say
发，
that
把它顶
I
回去。
can
那他
travel
肯定先
from
来地
Earth
球，对不对？
and push it
对。
away.
那
And
等
that's
等候
why
期间的
it
时候，也
came
会
to
找些缘
Earth
分的，
to
啊，
protect us.
一看觉得真是
And
哎，
during this
有太阳
time,
星的影子呀，啊，有狼味
when
儿
they
啊，
meet
啊，
some
有狼味
human
儿啊，
beings, they might say
对，
that,
一看
oh,
这
this
我们过去一
person
伙儿的，
seems to
忘
have
了，
came from
啊，对，
Star Sirius, and she
哎，
just
对。
forgot
其
who
实像绝
she
症
is
来
and
说的
where
话，
she
他
came
可
from.
能他有那
So
个基因哈，
Jurgen,
就
maybe
可能
she
是
has the
20万分
genes.
之一
Maybe
啊，因
you
为他吃了
have
人家天良星给这个
um,
酸枣嘛，
one
就成这
in
样的。
100,000
对，有些人是
gene
直接
that
就是
came
神，
from
或者
the
是
Sirius
他们
constel
派遣来
Sirius
的使者，
star.
就在人间，
And
一定不是做简单的事情，都做大的
these
事情。
representatives of
但是平常你可能
deities or
不觉
these
得他是那
deities,
样
when
的
they came
神
to
级的人，
when they live on earth with us, they are here to do
对。
a
那
very
有的时候
important
他
job.
会去加持
And
和帮
sometimes
助一
they
些
will help
特别有缘分
and
的和
bless
心地善良的人，
very
让你成为领袖，
kind
成为了不
and
起的人。
worthy people so
对吧？
that they can
你
become
看有
leaders
些
and
国家总统就是
successful
说，我也
people.
想当总统，啊，成天想，成
Some
天想，
presidents,
给你个机会让你当吧，
some
那就
people,
当
when
了
they
总
say
统，
that, oh,
对吧？
I want to be a
他就说
president,
我
and
要
they
利益
say
众
that
生，
all the
啊，
time,
利益
and
众
they
生，
say, I want to
小的
benefit
光想利益众生，
sentient
但是要
beings,
钱没钱，
and
要
the
智慧
the
没智
deity
慧，
will make
怎么
you a
办呢？
president.
外星人看这傻
And
小
if
子，真令我感动啊！外
if
星人也哭了一场之后说，给你，
if
啊，
the
是吧？
alien
给
is
你一
touched
个
by
闪
your
电，
aspiration to
啊，
benefit all
哎，
sentient beings, but you have nothing to
对，
do
就
it,
把你劈成了神
they
了，
will
啊，最
give
后
you a
是吧？
chance,
哎，怎
maybe
么
strike you with lightning,
怎
and
怎么
suddenly
你伸手
you
你就
will
就能
become
治病
a
了嘞？
a,
就
a,
是这
a
样的，
deity as well, that
哎，
when you reach out your
这个
hand,
在世界
you
各
can
地都
heal
有，
someone.
对呀，有点像
And it
那
has
个
happened
北美印第安人
many places in
虽然也是这样
um,
嘛。
啊，
实
on
际上在
Earth.
中国东
For
北不是更
example,
多吗？
in North
所以有很
America,
多是这样，也是就
uh,
是神
in
灵
the
觉得你这个人不
indigenous
错
tribes, there are
啊，对吧？
medicine
他就把这个能力
men.
给了你了，
And also in
对，
northern
给了你，你
China,
的一
many
般这
people are
种
like
就是
that
帮你
too.
的
And
啊。
when they give you
神
an
突然降能
ability,
力给你
that
了，大家都
ability
不显得，
is
都
given
是
to you
帮人。
because you
可
can
能
help
会有
other
大胆
people.
的猜测哈，就
Some people are
嗯，
guessing,
像咱这个
some
菩提
people
弟子
leaving
哈，
messages
你有了帮
online.
人的能力，没人闲的，
Master
因为
says
闲着
that
是有罪过的。
when you have
你是吧？
when
有
you
功夫
have
不
the
去用，不
ability
去
to
帮
help
人，
other
会死了
people,
下地
you
狱。
cannot
帮多
just
少人一个下
rest.
地狱，知道吗？不
If
是帮
you
多少
don't
人，
use
你
that
得闲着
ability,
不帮
you
人一定下
will
地狱，
go
知道吗？
to hell when you pass
对
away.
对
You won't be
对的，
able to
嗯，
return
所以一
to
定要帮
the
人，但帮
the
人还不
word
能
of
收钱
God.
啊！
And also
一
when you
收钱
help
一把你
other
给劈
people,
了，
you
直接到
cannot
地狱了啊！把能力
gain
收回，打回原
profit
形，
from it.
哎，就
If
是这样。
you gain
对，
profit from it, then
所以这个神
your
其实
ability
它
will
是
be
在
taken
人
away
世
from
间
you.
当中，因为他是神，所以我
And
们
because
看不
it's a
清。
deity,
就因为他是神，他的
although it's among us, we cannot see through them, and they have enormous energy and power.
各个星体的这些
Uli says we have to be
怎
grateful
么解
to
这核实
all
啊
to all the deities. So let's put our palms together and say gratitude. Although we don't know who we're talking to, but these deities are
所以就
everywhere.
是当我们这个修
And
行的这过程，
During our
它会
self-cultivation
引发
process,
神灵对你的关注。
it actually triggers the deity's attention. It brings the deity's attention to us. Many self-cultivation places, it's actually called, it's a place where Buddha is chosen. If this person is cultivating with their life and they are not faking anything, the deity, the Buddha, will give you all the Dharma power and wisdom. And when you have learned that ability, when you gain that ability and you don't help other people, they will punish you so that you really become a wasted person. So we have to be in awe, we have to be respectful, and we have to finish our we have to do our job, we have to fulfill our duties. And also we cannot we have to be open-minded. We can't just restrict ourselves to science, to math. Some people, they might say that I want to transcend the knowledge learned in school, but I don't know how. Then you can learn from Master. If you like it, you can join me in the future. Remember to like and share my videos. Else, don't overlook subscribing and clicking like. Some people, when they can't get over an obstacle, they don't know what to do, and some people, they don't want to live anymore. And when such things happen, some people might say that, oh, I wish that I had met Master earlier. If I were able to let it go, then nothing would have happened. When people feel hopeless, all they need is the guidance from a wise person, and then everything will be fine. When you click like, when you click subscribe and share, or share my painting, give a small painting or give a small Dharma item to a friend, you are actually giving a blessing and protection. You might even save that person's life. And if you give it to 10 people, you might have saved 10 people's life. And so it's there will be infinite merits associated with it. So remember to click like and share. Thank you, Master. And I'm very grateful to meet Master in this lifetime and be able to study from Master. Let's come back to the Egyptian pyramids. These large architectures, from a broader perspective, it appeared to help human beings, to help the development of Earth, and it's a positive entities. And if you have a chance to visit Egypt, you have to be respectful mind to revere it, and don't just say that it's pseudoscience, or I'm only believe in science, I don't believe in anything. I met many people who are like this. There was a doctor. He doesn't believe in anything but science, and only after when he had a similar a spiritual encounter, then he realizes how limited, how narrow-minded he was. Because although you have attended university, you only learned limited knowledge. Even though you're a postdoc, if you have never learned to sew, then you don't know how to sew and how to embroider. If you don't learn it, then you don't understand it. So we have to give us a chance to learn and to become better. And so today we talked about extraterrestrial beings and the Great Pyramids. There are a lot more for you to ponder. Why do we talk about this? What's the meaning of it? The more you think about it, the more meaningful it is. You can consider the relationship between human beings and between man and heaven. And it's related to you as well. Jujun, is there anything you want to say? Master, thank you for broadening our mind and knowledge and having more insight into the 6 realms. And I look forward to Master's live stream next time. When can we talk about these topics again? Master says there's a lot of secrets of these aliens and extraterrestrial beings. Let's talk about what's next. Tomorrow's live stream is in North America, Vancouver time. It's Saturday, April 30th at 6 p.m. And in Asia Taipei time, it's Sunday, May 1st at 9 a.m. All right. I welcome everyone to join me again. I wish you happiness and good health and auspiciousness. See you again tomorrow.
小小的红点里，人生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇。我智慧了，我宽容了，我慈悲了，我自在了。因为有了你，生命变得更坚定，不忧忧无虑。因为有了你，日子不再有哭泣，不再有恐惧。我快乐了，我快乐了，我健康了，我健康了，我幸福了，我幸福了，我美丽了，我美丽生命的真理，救寻的力 人生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇，小小的。